For the second year in a row, the Golden Horseshoe has made the bottom of my list. And because Disneyland actually added a restaurant this year, it has slid down a spot. I might be about to make some enemies here, but this place is terrible. And so is its neighbor, Stage Door Cafe. I'm sorry, I don't like the food. I don't like the theme. About the only redeeming quality is that I use the seating area whenever Bengal Barbecue or Royal Street Veranda is full. One of Disneyland's newest restaurants is Cafe Daisy, and unfortunately this was a huge disappointment for me. The food is just not that great. It's a kids-themed restaurant in a kids-themed land that sells, well, you know, food for the palates of kids. Of course, as with any of these bottom-tier restaurants on my list, your mileage may vary. Harbour Galley lost a lot of ground with me this year and fell all the way back to number 20. The fact of the matter is they just haven't brought back that lobster mac and cheese, which I found to be the best thing that they served. The mushroom, vegetable, and farro stew is just awful. The seating is limited, and the view is just terrible when there's a ship under renovation, which has been like the last 6 months. Royal Street Veranda also fell down a few spots this year from 17 to 19, and that's because I've actually eaten here twice within the last year, whereas in the last video, I had been a while, so I actually kind of know what I'm talking about this time. And while the clam chowder is pretty good, I just find that the limited menu and the near to non-existent seating area are just a no-go for me. A lot of the items on this menu can be gotten elsewhere in the park, so this restaurant just seems redundant. I almost forgot about the Little Red Wagon again. In fact, Disneyland itself even forgot about the Little Red Wagon, because if you go on Disneyland's website and then you click dining and all dining so that all the restaurants are showing, Little Red Wagon is conveniently missing, which is how it got left off of my Disneyland food guide for 2024. But here it is right behind me. It's cute, it's convenient, but it just sells corn dogs. So this is all the higher it's going. Hungry Bear Restaurant slides up a spot to number 17. Overall, my opinions on this restaurant haven't changed very much. It just serves burgers. It's a little bit better than Galactic Grill's burgers, but overall, the restaurant isn't my favorite. It occasionally has some seasonal foods, and I like to try those, but overall, this is just my favorite place to come to. However, the Huckleberry Lemonade that they've had once before was pretty decent, and I would consider getting it again if they bring it back on the menu, of course, because it's not there right now. At number 16, we have the Galactic Grill, which jumps up a whole 4 spots from last year. I felt like maybe I was just a little too harsh, and since then, I've had 3 to 4 of the breakfast offerings here, as well as about a half a dozen of their seasonal treats, which I actually find to be pretty decent. The burgers are still the absolute worst at Disneyland, in my opinion, so it doesn't really justify a much higher ranking than this. And the best of the burger restaurants at Disneyland is Red Rose Tavern. If you have to buy burgers, this is the location to buy it at. However, I feel like pretty much anything else on their menu is better than that, be it the flatbreads, the Mickey pancakes, or the ever-changing but always present gray stuff. It is like the only option in Fantasyland proper though, so I understand if this is where you go. At risk of angering half of the internet, I've decided to bump the Blue Bayou down 10 spots to number 14 this year. Previously, it had been 6 to 7 years since I had been here, and I ranked it solely based on nostalgic memory and the general hype that I see about this restaurant around the internet. But after finally eating here again last year, I'm sorry to say that it was probably some of the worst food I've had in the entire park. The only reason why I ranked it this high is because of the atmosphere, which is the best in the entire park. I mean, what can be better than eating on the bayou watching Pirates of the Caribbean float by? But still, I'm sorry, it just does not justify a higher ranking than this. Another restaurant to lose quite a bit of ground this year is the Plaza Inn, for much the same reasons as Blue Bayou. It had been a really long time since I had eaten here, and I was ranking it last year pretty much based on a very distant memory and everyone's universal love for the fried chicken. Well, I had the fried chicken again this year, and it was okay, but let's just say I'm not in a hurry to get back anytime soon. Now, I must say that I am ranking Plaza Inn solely off of its quick service capacity and not as its character breakfast capacity, which it is right this minute as I'm filming, because I've never actually done the character breakfast. So this is solely based on lunch and dinner. The Refreshment Corner jumps up a few spots this year to number 12 just because a few other restaurants have been downgraded. The food here isn't necessarily any better, it's still just hot dogs, but I do have to give them credit for being creative. During the Disney 100 celebration, they created the Violet Pretzel and put it out here, and it was a top contender for me for one of the best treats into Disneyland. Holding its spot at number 11 is Alien Pizza Planet. Now, let's be real. If we were ranking this place solely based on the item for its namesake here, yeah, it would be much, much lower, probably fighting for the bottom with Golden Horseshoe and Stage Door Cafe. But despite the name, they actually have some pretty decent food in their pasta. They have beef, chicken, and shrimp offerings. I feel like they mix it up as well. They change how they make it and what particular offering they have. The countdown chicken and shrimp fusilli, though, are pretty mainstay on their menu, and I find them both to be fantastic and phenomenal offerings. They're large enough to split, which makes this also a budget-friendly place as well. Rounding out the bottom of my top 10 once again is Ronto Roasters. It's the same 3 items on the menu it's always been, and I still haven't tried that Ronto-less wrap that everyone's always recommending to me. I will say this, I don't like eggs, like at all, and the Ronto morning wrap is practically wrapped in eggs. But I find that to be probably one of my favorite breakfast items in the entirety of the Disneyland Resort. So if I can give it that big of a recommendation, you know Ronto Roasters is good. Another restaurant where everything on their menu is absolutely delicious is Troubadour Tavern. And right now is kind of a bad time to be filming this because the Lion King show is having one of their last performances right now. Very, very busy, also kind of loud, but I do want to say that Troubadour makes a huge leap up because of how good the Serengeti stew is in particular. It really, really surprised me this year. It may switch back to a temporary menu where it is closed during the off-peak times of the year. It has done it in the past, but it has been consistently open in the last year. We'll see what happens. Disneyland's newest restaurant is Tiana's Palace. And now, despite the outside receiving a bit of an upgrade and the menu receiving an overhaul, I've actually decided to downgrade this restaurant from number 6 to number 8. It was previously the French Market, and I just felt like that restaurant was phenomenal. I loved everything on the menu. It was one of my favorite restaurants at Disneyland. And now that they've changed the menu, yes, the house gumbo is one of my top items in the whole park. And it comes right from Tiana's Palace, which is the reason for its ranking in my top 10 in the first place. But I feel like the rest of the food is just kind of so-so. Except for, of course, that baked mac and cheese. Oh man, I love the baked mac and cheese. Of course, with anything that I share in this video, as I said it once before, your mileage may vary, so you may find that you love the rest of the food on this menu. Rancho del Zocalo also pops up a few spots this year from number 9 to number 7. It just serves consistently good food at large portions and great prices. Like Alien Pizza Planet, this is a place that my wife and I can often split, which means that we save money. And at a place like Disneyland, saving a buck or two is always a good thing. Riverbell Terrace slides back a slot for me this year, not due to any fault of its own, just a surprising upgrade from another restaurant that we'll get to in just a bit. It's got good food here, but outside of Blue Bayou, which I've already pushed way down my list, this is my least favorite of the remaining table service restaurants, if that makes sense. It's still a good option, but the menu changes so frequently, I find that I have a hard time getting a good read on what this place actually sells. I just find a menu item that I really like, and then the next time I go to order it, it's simply not there, which is a bit of a disappointment. Generally, I've found the food here to be good. Others say differently, but again, this is my own personal list, so I'm putting it here. At number 5, we have Carnation Cafe, which it seems like a big drop considering it where it was last year, but it's not due to any fault of the restaurant. It's just a fallacy in the way that I ranked restaurants last year. Last year, I said, well, because this is a table service restaurant and it's a higher tier caliber type of a restaurant because it's table service and you're actually waited on. Therefore, it must deserve to be higher on the list. This year, I decided to just rank them based on how good I think the food is and the likelihood that you are to go there, which means that Carnation Cafe just bumps down a slight bit, but the food is still phenomenal and I love eating here. Cafe Orleans is my #1 table service restaurant in all of Disneyland, but it does come down at number 4 this year simply because I think some quick service restaurants have better food. Even so, the food here is top notch. But even if the food was terrible, because they have pommes frites on the menu, I would probably still put it here on the rankings because the pommes frites are just that good. It's the #1 reason why I come to Cafe Orleans. And you used to be able to order it on the side, like as its own sort of entree, appetizer, if you will. Now it just comes as a side with your meal. But so long as it stays on their menu, I'm okay to keep Cafe Orleans right where it is. The huge surprise for me this year was the Jolly Holiday Bakery Cafe. You know, I watched last year's ranking video and I actually said that I would never eat here for quick service food, that it was only good for its seasonal sweet treats, and I have never been happier to admit that I was wrong. I have probably ordered the Jolly Holiday Combo, my favorite item on the menu, 6 to 8 times in the past year. The tomato basil soup that comes with it is just phenomenal. Of course, you can order the tomato basil soup on its own as well. Couple that with the cinnamon roll that I'm ashamed to admit exactly how many times I've ordered, and it's a surprise that Jolly Holiday is not #1 on my list. And coming in at #2 is Bengal Barbecue. Now, last year I ranked this one a lot lower solely based on the skewers being a little pricey, but this year I decided to leave price out of the equation and just go solely based on quality of food. Now, Jolly Holiday, while the food is good, I have found that the way it's prepared can be inconsistent. I mean, just look at the difference in these cinnamon rolls. But at Bengal Barbecue, I've received consistently good food each and every time. The skewers are always piping hot, the meat is always tender, and it's always 100% delicious. And my #1 restaurant at Disneyland this year is Docking Bay 7. The best dish that I have ever eaten at Disneyland came from Docking Bay 7 last year, and though their menu changes frequently, it is always delicious. When we're talking consistency, Docking Bay 7 delivers time and time again. Probably one of the biggest surprises, however, is that one of my top items of the year is actually one of their plant-based, vegan-friendly options. And before we end this video, let's talk about the biggest movers of the year. So going down 10, we have Blue Bayou. I feel like I've already explained my reasoning for that. Harbour Galley, maybe not so much in the explanation category. I just really miss some of the food offerings that they used to have, the foods and the drinks. Now it's mostly just bread bowls, and I just feel like it's a huge downgrade to their menu. I do need to try their lobster roll, though, so maybe it'll come up in next year's video. However, in the up category, we have Troubadour Tavern and Jolly Holiday both going up 10. Now, last year, I hadn't really tried Troubadour a whole lot before I filmed last year's ranking video, and so after trying a lot of their foods this year, huge improvement for me. Kind of the same goes with Jolly Holiday. Before, it had just been a snack place, but after finally breaking down and trying some of their foods and then being more adventurous with their overall menu, I am happy to say that both of these restaurants definitely deserve to be upgraded in your minds. And that's it for our time here today, ranking every single restaurant at Disneyland from worst to best. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you agreed or disagreed with me, let me know down in the comments. And if you would like to see my full ultimate guide that's going to show you the foods at these restaurants as well as the prices, go ahead and click this video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again next time.